feel honored. So, my name is Mag Muntari, as Kanto has already said. So, I will make a presentation on non-timber forest non-timber forest resources in the sub-Saharan Africa, and we are going to focus much on the challenges, opportunities, and the policy pathways that we can use to unlock these opportunities. But before I start, let me start with a question. When you think of the value of an African uh, forest, whether you're in Malawi or any other country around the world, what's the first thing that comes to your mind? I know that it's timber, perhaps maybe land for agriculture. So what if I told you that the true hidden wealth of our forests isn't in the trees that we cut down, but in the incredible array of products we can harvest from them, year after year, without causing actually destruction? So we are talking about everything from nutrient-packed superfoods, powerful medicinal plants, to natural cosmetics, and even edible insects. So today, we are here to explore this vast, often overlooked economic frontier, which is the non-timber forest products. More importantly, we are going to uncover how this subsector was the key to unlocking sustainable livelihoods, entrepreneurial ventures, and climate resilient futures for our youth in Africa. So maybe before we proceed, maybe there are some people that don't know what these non-timber forest products are, and some people, they call them non-timber forest resources. These are any products or services other than timber that are derived from the forestry, woodlands, or even trees outside forest. So these pictures, these are just some of the examples of the non-timber forest products that we know. If you look at the edible fruits, you find that there's baobab, there's amalula here, there's wapaka kikiena, which is mostly common in the Miombo woodlands. We have some also edible insects like termites and mopane worms that are usually found in Malawi and other, probably Zimbabwe, Zambia. We also have honey, and we have a youth who is going to talk more about this one. And we also have some medicinal plants that you can see from here. We have this one, which is the devil crow, which is usually found in Namibia and South Africa. We have this African ginger, which is very common here in Malawi among the youth. And we have aloe vera, and we have some resins and gums as well. We also have some mushrooms and touching grass. And you may know that most of the houses in Africa, especially in the rural areas, in terms of the roofing, they are made from touching grass. And we also have some animals. So in this case, I didn't put some examples, but even the bush animals are also example of the non-timber forest products. So why do these non-timber forest products matter? If you look at the figure that I've provided here that I got from one of the researchers, you'll find that nearly 6 billion people around the world, they use actually, they rely or they use non-timber forest products. And most of them, especially 50%, are from the rural global south. These are low-income countries, and the other 50% is from the urban areas and the global north. So most of the people from the rural global south, they use it for subsistence and income. But most of the people that are in the urban areas or even from the global north, they use it as high value, or they buy products. So I also tried to find out from other papers, and I found out that in terms of the proportion of the households that use at least one non-timber forest product in Africa is the figure that is showing here. And you find that in Africa overall, almost 92.8, which is around 93% of the population or the households, they at least use non-timber forest products. And you find that in other countries like Zambia, Ethiopia, and Cameroon, almost 100%, even Malawi, because in Malawi it's around 99.8, they use at least one non-timber forest products. So how do these 6 billion people that I talked about use and value non-timber forest products? I also looked at a number of studies, and we've taken this figure from this researcher, Derebe and Alemu, who actually did a systematic review of around 35 studies in the world, in Africa actually. So out of these 35 papers, at least 31 papers, they found that most of the people they use these non-timber forest products for honey and others for food. And even in other countries, for example, like Malawi, we use actually non-timber forest products for as biomass. Almost 90, more than 90% of our Malawians, they use non-timber forest, especially firewood as energy. And in Africa, more than 80%, they also rely on the same biomass. And in some countries, some of these non-timber forest sites that are used for initiation ceremonies, and others they use it for crafts and for construction and other purposes, just like you can see from the figure here. But if you look at most of these non-timber forest products, we've noted that they've got a very great potential when it comes to alleviating poverty. So I also looked at some of the studies to look at in terms of the contribution of these non-timber forest products to household income. I couldn't manage to find some for Malawi, but if you look at this figure, you'll find that in Ethiopia alone, almost 47% of the household income comes from the non-timber forest products. And most of these non-timber forest products, they provide a safety net for most of the households in African countries, especially during the times of need. And if you look at Djibouti, you find that only 9% of the household income comes from non-timber forest products. So in terms of the value as well, these non-timber forest projects, they do contribute to local or even national economies, or even in some countries, they do provide actually foreign exchange earnings. You find that, for example, in Zambia, they did harvest some honey, and they did manage to realize around $491,000. In Tanzania, the same. And globally, in terms of mushroom, they're able to generate 2 billion US dollars. And in the West Africa, you find that shea nuts, they are also generating some money from there. And in terms of bamboo as well, globally, and in India, although it's not in Africa, but they also generate some money from these non-timber forest products. So in this case, I'll just provide some country spotlights when it comes to how various countries are actually turning these local resources into local brands. In Malawi, you can see that there's some women. These are being supported by Women of Purpose Foundation to produce mushroom. And we've also noted recently that National Youth Council of Malawi, they are also encouraging their youth to go into beekeeping. And these are just this is just a youth and some of the products that they're producing. And we have this famous product, we call it Gondres, which is very famous among the youth and men, and Malawi is also exporting it to other countries. When it comes to Kenya, Kenya is also another example where non-timber forest products are also playing a very big role in the lives of our youth and even women. And we've noted that the country is actually exporting baobab products. And if you look at this one, you can see that it's a fruit powder, and this is it's oil, and this one is the same. It's the same powder, but you can add it in the smooth that young people like. And in South Africa, we've also noted that there is this devil's crop, which is very famous for medicinal purposes. And in the meantime, they're actually producing this kind of products from the non-timber forest products, especially the devil's crop. And in West Africa, I came across this company, I think should be from South Africa, whereby in 2029, they committed to support shea collecting women in Ghana and Burkina Faso. And so far, they've managed to reach out to 10,500 women from these two countries. So they do buy shea nuts from them and they use it to produce shea butter, the one that we use in some of the cosmetics that we use. But despite the importances that I've talked about, these non-timber forest products, they face several challenges. And one of them, we've seen that over-harvesting and resource degradation that has been reported, especially people that are extracting unsustainably these wild products, especially these traditional doctors, they do extract a lot of medicinal plants from our forests, and even in terms of honey and even mushrooms. And these, they do actually threaten biodiversity and ecosystem health. And you've not also noted that there's limited access, market access, and in terms of even value addition. And most of the non-timber forest products that we know in Africa, they're usually traded either low or informally. And there's actually little minimum processing, whether it's processing or grading or in terms of aggregation, there's little processing. And this one actually reduces income potential for the local communities, especially women and youth that actually whose lives actually depend on these non-timber forest products. And the issue of climate change, we've noted over the past decade that there is some changing in terms of the rainfall patterns, some droughts, and even in terms of the seasons. And this one actually does affect the availability and distribution, as well as the productivity of some of the non-timber forest products that we see, especially from the Miombo or the dry forest. And in some cases, we have noted that in some African countries, most of the forest reserves are under public, they're under government. And in some cases, especially the national parks, we find that most of the in those national parks, our communities, they are not allowed to access. So in other cases, government may even grant some concessions or commercial logging to other companies. And in most of the cases, they do restrict or completely deny access to forests, especially local people that are surrounding these forest reserves. And another challenge is that if you look at our policies in Africa, they lack there is lack of policy to guide in terms of the use, management, and development of non-timber forest products. They are not adequately actually acknowledged or mainstreamed in most of the African policies, whether it's in Malawi or Ghana or where. And in terms of the strategies, we don't have these kind of strategies that can guide in terms of how we can use or manage or develop our non-timber forest products in our various countries. And among the youth, I believe they will also present this in terms of finance. They don't have the adequate finance or whether it's capital to start up, maybe in terms of the business that they want to venture into. And I've also noted that most of the programs that are implemented, whether it's in Africa or in Malawi, there are very few programs that focuses much on non-timber forest products. If that is not the case, then there isn't sufficient resources for the implementation of such kind of programs. And I've also noted that there's also limited data in terms of the volumes. When I was actually preparing for this presentation, it was very difficult for me to get some data when it comes to the production and other data that we need when it comes to non-timber forest products. So in most of the countries, these non-timber forest products data, They are either undervalued or they don't report or even they're not included in the national accounts. And this one actually, that's why you find that most of our forests, when it comes to their contribution to the GDP, it's lower because than either not reported in the national accounts. And there's also limited awareness of the non-timber forest products. There are so many opportunities that are there when it comes to these non-timber forest products. But most of our young people or women or those companies, they don't know what these opportunities are. And I also came across that there's this illegal trade when it comes to non-timber forest products. And every year, Africa does lose about 17 billion due to this illegal non-timber forest product trade. But there are so many opportunities that arises from the challenges that I talked about. You find that the global market now is shifting towards these natural, sustainable, and ethically sourced products. For example, the superfoods and their market in terms of the demand for the indigenous Africans is actually increasing. For example, the baobab, the moringa, the maula oil. And in terms of the demand, even for the natural cosmetics, is also increasing. And there's this issue of prospecting. Most of the pharmaceutical companies that are doing research so that they can come up with various, I don't know, medicals or various meds and even herbs that can be used to treat various diseases. So they're into this bioprospecting, and we believe that this one is also another opportunity for various countries, including those in Africa. And if you look at the non-timber forest products, they also offer various entrepreneurship opportunities for our youth and even women. Instead of maybe just producing, our youth can be engaged in value addition, processing, and even branding as well. And if you also look at the non-timber forests, they align very well with the climate and conservation goals, and they also provide climate resilient livelihoods. Especially, you find that most of these non-timber forest products, they are very resilient to climate shocks as compared to the annual crops that we grow. So we believe that promoting this diverse portfolio of non-timber forest products can play a very big role or a strategy when it comes to community adaptation to climate change. And there is also this regional integration and international trade. There are so many trade agreements that our countries they've signed, and we have this SADC forest strategy that is also promoting regional non-timber trade, non-timber forest product trade harmonization. So we believe this one is also a very big opportunity for our youth. In terms of the policy landscapes, there are so many actually policy frameworks that support non-timber forest products, including starting from the international to the local one. So at international level, we have the Nagoya Protocol on Access and Benefit Sharing, which was ratified by many countries within the region. So this one, it just provides a framework to ensure that the benefits that countries get from the use of these genetic resources that we get, for example, the medical plants, they are shared fairly within the country and even communities where they're coming from. And we have this African Union Sustainable Forest Management Framework as well, which was developed around 2019, which is from 2020 to 30. And we also have the SADC Forest Strategy. We have the East African Community Forest Policy. We also have the African Forest Forum. And this one does provide some research guidance and even a platform for knowledge sharing. And in terms of the national policies, we also have our own national policies that also recognize non-timber forest products as a strategic forest resource. So There are so many pathways that we can use or implement to make sure that we unlock these opportunities. And I believe that those people that are listening to me in this webinar, they're also going to provide their own. But from the studies that I've done and from the findings that I've come up, I've found, I've noted that there is need for strengthening of the governance and policy frameworks. We really need to make sure that these national timber forest resources are mainstreamed into the national forest policy, even biodiversity policies. And in the meantime, most of the countries that are developing their national adaptation plans. So we have to make sure that even in those national adaptation plans, these timber forest projects are also mainstreamed. And there's need for various countries or stakeholders to invest in value addition and market development. Otherwise, we are not going to go very far. We really need to support our youth when it comes to eco enterprise incubation programs. And even we also need to raise awareness of the diverse opportunities that are there within the non-timber forest products. Earlier on, I talked about the issue of illegal non-timber forest product trade. So I think there's also need for us to strengthen in terms of the transboundary cooperation so that we can curb this issue of illegal trade. And I also talked about the issue of data. So we believe that if you can develop a regional non-timber forest product inventory, and the digital monitoring platform can also enhance on how we can unlock these opportunities within the sector. We also need to mobilize green or climate finance for youth-led non-timber forest products. Although accessing climate finance is not easy, we really need to make sure that we capacitate our youth and even the organizations that would like to develop these bankable projects whereby we can be able to access this climate finance. And we also need to invest in research and development. And in most cases, I don't know, for whether it's a youth or a certain company would like to venture into a certain opportunity, they are supposed to know what is it in terms of the profitability of that thing. So we really need to undertake some deep dive studies of these various non-timber forest products so that people can see how valuable or how profitable are they. Because in Malawi, we have done a number of deep dive studies for the crops, but I haven't seen much on the non-timber forest products. And there's also need to invest in the inclusive innovation and capacity building. We have to make sure that we provide training, financing, entrepreneurship, and leadership support to our youth so that they can be able to benefit from that. There's also need to strengthen national and regional networks or platforms like the way we are doing here, because we are going to share the best practices and innovations as well. Thank you very much for your attention. And for more information, actually, you can be free to contact me via email, or you can visit our website. And I believe that our youth are going to provide most of the practical examples on how we can unlock the opportunities that are here. And there are also experts that are going to share their views as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Muntali. This was very informative. And you mentioned at the beginning of your presentation that there is less awareness about the non-timber forest resources. And I'm just hoping that, after this webinar, a lot of people are now going to be more aware of it, and they will share this amazing information that you just shared with us with their networks. You did mention that these non-timber forest resources are resilient to climate change, and climate change is inevitable in this age, but then we do need to learn how to adapt to it. So having things like this will definitely help us to adapt to climate change. And also not only are they resilient to climate change, as you mentioned, they also don't require a lot of land. You know, we know that land is expensive. It's not easy to acquire land. And they are also sustainable. So it's just positive after positive after positive. And I just know that a lot of young people, you know, in this webinar are gaining a lot from all of these insights that you shared with us. And I see that in the chat, they were also requesting for the presentation. A lot of people were really, really interested in getting the presentation slides that you have. Thank you so much. Should you have any questions about this presentation that Dr. Muntali has just presented, please, you may just type them in the chat for now, and then there will come a time where you will be able to ask those questions and we'll be able to answer them. Now I want us to move on to a success story actually of an entrepreneur who is into the non-timber forest resources value addition. This is Mr. Joseph Simukoko, and he is from Zambia. Mr. Joseph is a young entrepreneur who is transforming the baobab fruit into marketable products such as juice, powders, skincare products, and oils. And he is also contributing to income generation in sustainable harvesting practices. He will be telling us all about the adding value to baobab from forest to market. Mr. Joseph, the floor is yours now. Thank you. I can
Just to
see you have
confirm,
your
you can hear me?
presentation. Yes, I can hear you and I
Just
can
to
see your
confirm.
presentation. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I just want to thank all the organizers for this recognition, for allowing me to come and just share a few thoughts on what we're doing as the company that I co-founded called Green Giraffe. My name is Joseph Ifwananji Simukoko. I'm the co-founder of a company called Green Giraffe. So I'll be able to tell you more about it just now. Let me just get the controls of my presentation first. Great, I've got them back. So just to give you a quick recap, so Green Giraffe actually started as a tech startup. You might find that surprising and intriguing. We started as a tech startup in 2022 and we were born out of a challenge fund. So there was a hackathon that was conducted in Zambia in 2022, sometime in November, where we were tasked to come up with solutions to address the effects of climate change. And at that point, we thought, because I come from the agriculture space, so I was like, you see, most of the agriculture incentives to help farmers adopt climate smart agriculture practices tended to be disadopted once the incentive of whatever project that was funding that particular initiative would wind up. So there was a report that was released, I think in 2016, that showed something like 95% of farmers disadopted the climate smart agriculture practices, Zambia. And so when we went into that hackathon, we were like, look, I think we need to find a way to sustainably engage with farmers so that they can continue the gains from climate smart agriculture. And in the room, when we were coming up with the idea, we realized that if we don't address the market aspect, whatever incentive that we want to do at technology adoption will not go anywhere. So that's how we came up with the tagline, Zambian flavor in a box. We wanted to share the flavors of Zambia across the regions of Zambia and put them together as something that someone would enjoy and take a trip into our Miombo woodlands, to take a trip into our Mopani woodlands and basically enjoy products that are unique to those regions. And that's where the idea of Green Giraffe came about. So the big idea, how did this whole thing lead us into the baobab value chain? So in interacting with the farmers, we were looking at some of the opportunities that they had already, some of the low-hanging fruits in terms of products that we can actually engage. So we reached out to them and got quite a few. I think we at some point had SKUs reaching as high as 40. That's basically different products that we were getting. So we had dried fruits, we had nuts, tree nuts, and also ground nuts. We had as well as root crisps, baobab, absolute baobab, but cassava, sweet potato. And then we also started doing some herbal trees. These are the hibiscus teas to try to diversify our product until we settled on our major drivers. And the idea behind this really, and I'm speaking to anyone who's looking at starting out a business in this space, is you might not know which one when starting, but the market will tell you. The market will tell you what they like, how they like it, how they want it presented in front of them. And that's what we began. We began our business in exploring what would be marketable. But here's another thing that I would say that was interesting for us is that we didn't look at equipment constraints or building constraints at the beginning, because for us, our major goal is we need to get a customer. So if I was to sum up everything around this big idea, we wanted to find a product that there's a customer for. So in as much as we started with so many products, our aim was to see, like I call it the machine gun principle. You shoot into a wall and see which one has hit the target. And that's how we found that Baobab was one of the major products that was really well received. But let me just rewind a little bit to kind of show you some of the challenges that not just affect the non-timber forest products, but generally affect the rural economy. And just to highlight why we are still called a tech company. So at the point at which when we're engaging the farmers, initially we couldn't, especially when it comes to non-timber forest products, you don't engage them directly. We were working through aggregators. They've got different names wherever you go. We call them middlemen, we call them traders, I call them aggregators, but these are individuals that basically collect and gather a commodity for you, and then you're able to access it. But the more we did that, the more we realized that if we are buying at this amount, how much are the farmers or the collectors getting when they are selling to these aggregators? And we realized that there was quite a little bit of lowered interest in terms of market share. So it bothered us. It bothered us first and foremostly because farmers there was no standard in which they were being remunerated. So some of those things are not even weighed. So if you look at the way aggregation happens, you find that it's just in sacks. So the size of the sack, if they call it a 50 kg, they actually mean not 50 kgs in weight, but it's 50 kgs in sack size. Or the 90 kg is not 90 kg in weight, it's 90 kg in the sack size. So even if the commodity weighs lower than what is contained in there, or heavier than what is contained in there, it doesn't matter. As long as you present it in that sack, that's how the collector or the farmer is paid. And we started noticing these same nuances. And because remember, in as much as you're providing an economic opportunity for the rural economy, the poverty needle was not moving. Get what I mean? So it's like you are, at the end of the day, not really helping. You start wondering what's happening. And so you start understanding the dynamics that are basically in there. So it's the same when it comes to even crops in the agriculture space. We found that there was no standards used, no negotiations used. It's a standard price that is set, and that is it. You can't do anything about it. And the farmers or the collectors do not even know whether they've made a profit or not. So why is this important? Why is this important that we find a way to ensure that our farmers actually earn better from their produce, right? it's interesting. I think the previous speaker, Doc Commentary, you mentioned that there's a big market demand. So we kind of did a little bit of a study as well and discovered that it's 120 billion market for eco-conscious or sustainably grown products. 120 billion global market, and Africa contributes less than 15% to this global market. But it will be interesting to note that, you see, Africa also has 60% of the unused arable land, and quite a big chunk of this land is still under forest. You get what I mean? It means that if we were to look at the population of the world, and they're telling us we are rapidly getting towards 10 billion by 2050, who's going to feed that growing population? The world would turn to Africa. So we need to now start looking at Africa as the breadbasket of the world. But there are certain things that have come in that have actually started posing as challenges for us to become the breadbasket of the world. Some of those challenges are not just the exploitation of the natural resources that we have, but it's like from where I'm coming from, we have this challenge where the rural economy is not effectively capitalized. And as a result, their productivity is quite low. And something has to change about the way we engage with our rural economy in terms of them accessing markets. But as the world is also growing, there's a growing concern. And I think there was a big list that, Doc, you shared, that one of them was climate change, and other issues. But there's a growing concern in how are we going to exploit our natural resources as Africa to feed the world. And so there's now this bigger drive to ensure that we sustainably exploit our natural resources, including agriculture, including our forest, how we manage our forest. And one of the things that has come up, which is really a regulation that has come up to actually help protect the forest, is the EU deforestation regulation, the EU deforestation regulation. And this particular regulation is saying that starting from 2020, 31st December, if a place is designated as a forest, it should not be cut down. So even for agricultural purposes, you can't expand your agricultural land into those forest areas. And so as African countries, and I was part of some of these dialogues where we were pushing back against this regulation, because we're like, look, the definition of forest is not clear. It doesn't attain to our definition of forest. As Green Giraffe, we came in and realized that, wait a minute, there are two major opportunities here. Number one is we don't necessarily have to cut down the forest to extend our agricultural land. We can exploit the forest as a source of products, right? We can exploit the forest as a source of products. So let's regenerate our forest. Let's regenerate our forest and also ensure that we don't cut it down by providing income to the collectors, the farmers themselves. Instead of just exploiting the arable land, they can literally now become the people that are guarding our forest. So this is where now we engaged in trainings called farmer managed natural regeneration, to kind of now bring back community forests which had been cut down for charcoal, cut down for other reasons. And we are now seeing an increase in biodiversity, but at the same time, we're seeing now an increase in some of the products that we're looking for as a market. And that's where we come from. So to quickly explain our solution, we looked at how to provide that particular evidence that what we are doing is actually leading to the increase in biodiversity, increase in, climate smart agriculture use, increase in basically sustaining the way we are exploiting our natural resources. And that's how we have continued being a tech company. And we've designed a digital traceability platform that actually starts with the farmer's identity. We get the farmer's digital identities, and then we connect it to the land that they are using to exploit. So we literally get the map of the plot or the field, the geospatial data of that particular piece of land on our platform, and we're able to see through NDVI satellites and Earth observation satellites to see how this piece of land is being used from the sky. And that particular set of information is all locked into blockchain technology, which is an immutable ledger. So we've found a use case, not crypto, but just the blockchain technology, and using it to store the metadata of that farmer, both the geospatial data, their digital profiles, as well as the activities that they're doing, to basically restore the environment and ensure that when we are done processing a product, we can put a QR code on that particular product to give you the full chain of custody from where this particular product came from. So now we have an entire value chain that is basically transparent, fair, and equally fully traceable, but also has the metadata to show how we have actually been able to be sustainable. But we've gone a bit further, but by not just claiming it's sustainable, we've now at the tail end of developing our life cycle assessment platform. So a life cycle assessment platform is basically a dashboard that presents the scope of your whole value chain in terms of ESG data as well as carbon footprint. And we are able to do this by connecting our life cycle assessment information, which is basically the information that's on the traceability system, and using AgriBalaise 3.2, which is the French database, lifecycle assessment database, and comparing what we have done on the traceability to be able to produce the full EHG scope of our interaction with the farmers. And then now we're able to report on scope 3, carbon reporting, as well as how we are actually improving those pieces of land that we've collected information from. So in short, that's how we are still a tech company in as much as we're adding value. Now let's get back to what has brought us to this particular meeting, our business model. So we produce and sell a variety of products, right? And one of our most successful products comes from exploiting the baobab tree, the fruit from the baobab tree. And I think in my introduction, a lot has been said. We also have other products that we get from these pieces of forest. Some of them is what we call the bush mango, the wild mango that's growing out there wildly. We also get some varieties of wild banana in some of the areas that we work with, like in Nyumba district. There's just a variety of Cavendish banana that just grows wildly. Very sweet, very little short, little stubby one, but very, very, very lovely. People love them because they know that no chemicals have been used in growing them. Nothing has been used to tamper with the ecosystem where they come from. So they are very excited about eating those particular bananas as well. We also have other products that we get from the forest as well. Like I mentioned, we have herbs that we use for teas. So it's an amazing resource that we have created. Further to that, we mentioned the technology services that we have. So if you look at, for instance, our income, we get more money from the technology, almost 60%, and the other 40% from the sale of the value-added products. In terms of environmental impact, so far, we've been able to increase our income for our farmers and collectors to about 30%. And then also we've engaged over 200 so far, and also address some of their post-harvest challenges, because we're able to collect the product quite quickly just after harvest, so they don't get to hold it for a long time and it doesn't spoil in their hands. And so far, we've been able to conserve around 500 hectares of land. In terms of income, for those that are interested, we've earned about $50,000 from 2023 when we started our market reach with our products. We've earned about $50,000 to date. And then from the technology and farmer engagement services being subcontracted by other organizations, we've earned about $60,000. And our profits so far are around 25% for those who are interested in venturing into a business like ours. So what have we learned from the time we started? Number one, the greatest opportunities are often invisible. For years everywhere, and the baobab tree has existed and people have been looking at it, but never thought about how to exploit it. So in your countries, if you do have this and any other forest non-timber product, have a chance of looking at it again. Doc, I heard you mention Wapaka Kekiana. We've really not done much to it, even here in this country. We don't make jams out of it. We don't make sauces out of it. We don't make any marinades out of it. But it's a fruit that's just consumed as a fruit. We haven't really fully exploited Wapaka Kekiana. For those in Zambia, masuku. In other words, I don't know what you call it in your country, but it's masuku here in Zambia. And I think Doc, you had mentioned it earlier. Value adjacent changes everything. Look, the analogy I can give you is the cost of everything changes as soon as you add value to it. The cost of anything greatly changes when you add value. So for us, we realize that let's be innovative. And this is why we are just excited about doing everything that we can to a single product once we get our hands on it. Technology is the equalizer. So for us, traceability isn't just data. It's trust, it's transparency, it's market access. It's something that we've realized that will change the game. And with these new regulations, like the organic regulation from EU, the EU deforestation regulation, we also have other regulations to do with the food safety, like ISO 22000, FSCC 22000. All of these require a traceability system in place. And so for us, we've realized that we are kind of thinking ahead of the game. And as we develop the tech rails to actually achieve this, we know that once we start accessing the European market, we will be able to present data that will show that this is a deforestation-free product and this is an organic product according to that standard. And to the young people in the room, listen, I think the argument has always been we need capital. I think for me, I'll argue differently. I would say we need a customer. Like you said, like you heard from us, we didn't start with buying equipment. We didn't start with putting up infrastructure. We started with identifying a customer. Right in our kitchen, we started producing the product. And once you develop the customer, I always give this ratio and say, if you can find a product that costs you half the price that you sell it for, then you're onto something. Because every time you sell a product, you can be able to double the amount of income that you have or produce twice the amount that you have. So for example, if you started with one product, you sell it, you'll be able to have enough capital to make two. If you make two, you sell it, you have enough capital to make four. 4 to 8, 8, 16, 16, 32, 32, 64. And that is how you generate income. At some point, you're going to cut off and say, I need to now invest in capital expenditure. By that time, you would have had the sufficient tractions to talk to banks or investors or any other person who's willing to invest in your business. So the customer for me is the more critical one. And so whenever you start a business, think about the capital. Don't think about the capital, think about the idea. And that is where we are coming as young people, because this is our time. We are living in the age of artificial intelligence. So idea stretching is amazing. So we can literally stretch our minds to wherever you can. And so a lot of things are now able to be exploited because we have the ideas. So I'll end by reciting a quote here. This is from our founder, Mwiche Mukoma. She's the founder of Green Giraffe Zambia. She says, true sustainability is not just about protecting nature. It's about empowering people to live in harmony with it, ensuring that every generation inherits both the beauty of the land and the opportunity it provides. Thank you. I've put a QR code where you can scan to get my details. Hope it's still there. Yeah. So you can scan that QR code. You can get my contact details, get to see our social media handles as well as our website. Thank you so much. And I think I'll hand over to the organizers, but thank you so much for allowing me to speak into you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Joseph. This was truly insightful. I see a lot of reactions. A lot of people in the chat are saying that this was indeed insightful. I loved the quote I'm gonna call it a quote that you started with that actually initiated this business that you have. You said that you looked at the baobab tree and said, if this tree has survived for thousands and thousands of years, what if it could help us to build something that would survive too? And today here we are, like you are making products from these non-timber forest resources that will survive. And thank you so much for sharing all this wonderful knowledge with us. A lot of people are finding it helpful, and I'm sure that they do have a lot of questions as well. We will allow them to ask you these questions when that time comes. In the meantime, thank you so, so much. Now I'm going to move on to our next speaker of the day. We have Miss Lorraine Dube, who is a youth innovator from Zimbabwe. She is into the beekeeping enterprise. She is a youth beekeeper who is engaged in sustainable honey production and works-based value addition. She also promotes forest conservation while enhancing community livelihoods. Lorraine is going to be telling us about the Buzz of Change, which is Youth Beekeeping Enterprise. Thank you so much, Lorraine. The time is yours.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much to the organizers. I am going to share with you my experiences as a beekeeper in Zimbabwe. Just a minute. Okay. All right. So my name is Lorraine. I'm an agribusiness professional. I studied agriculture, well, since high school, and I have been in love with agriculture because, hey, we all need to eat. And besides food, everything around us comes from agriculture. So the way I got into beekeeping, well, actually, we founded our company in 2016, and this was a merger of two organizations, Bomba Organic and Edlo's Fruits. So my co-founder, my partner, came from a village in Gokwe, and in that village, they grow a lot of fruits and vegetables, and they sell them by the roadside. So growing up, he always experienced a lot of food waste, and he was working towards coming up with ways of solving the food waste issue. And we happened to meet at a youth conference, and I wanted to do fruit value addition because, well, the issue of food waste. When we look at the issue with the food waste around the world, it's not that there isn't enough food that is being grown, but the food that's being grown is not reaching the people who need it. And also there's a lot of wastage that happens when this food is produced. So I have a picture. I've managed to find a small picture. So this is a picture from his village, and it's called Bomba in Gokwe. I don't know if we have any Zimbabweans here and if they're familiar with this market. It's very popular, especially for those who travel to Gokwe city, because they pass through the small village Gokwe, Bomba. So we set up a factory, a small processing factory in Bomba. As youth, I like what my brother Joseph mentioned. You know, you have to sometimes start small. But we thought we had enough funds to set up a factory. And before we knew it, we were running out of funds because setting up a processing space and a food standard processing space, it actually requires a lot of funds. So, but we managed to set it up, and we started producing dried fruits. We had dried mangoes, tomatoes, bananas, and the bananas that we're processing are the ones that Joseph mentioned, the small ones, the small local bananas. And they are quite sweet and very flavorful. So when we're doing this, the farmers around the area, they were really happy. And every morning we wake up, we'll find loads and loads of produce that they'll be bringing to sell. I have a picture here of tomatoes. Tomatoes everywhere in most African spaces. Tomatoes they are one of the most, how can I say, wasted products because they go bad quite fast. And in that area, I don't know if you saw the picture that I had, you see they produce a lot of tomatoes because of this, they have the irrigation plots, and they produce a lot of tomatoes, and some of them, they don't manage to sell them, and most will just go to waste. So we had a deal with the vendors that we will buy from you the tomatoes that you think you can no longer sell because it's no longer appealing, but it's still consumable. So in that way, we saved a lot of tomatoes. And so these are some of the products that we had. We had apples, pineapples, bananas, tomatoes. So now, and also tomato sauce. These are some of the products that we were working with. So how we then got into beekeeping is that the area where we were in Bomba, we had access to land. And that land we were granted by my business partner's father. He just said, okay, I have about 3 hectares that you can use. You can grow anything you want. Unfortunately, when we then explored that land, we could not grow anything because it was sandy soil, like heavy sandy soil. So we couldn't grow anything there. But a friend came and was like, you know what? Bees are actually great because they actually less resource intensive, and you don't need to plow anything. So after thinking about the proposal to go into beekeeping, we thought, hey, this will be good product diversification for us. And as I just thought about honey, I love honey myself, but I always got so disappointed because whenever I would go to the supermarket to buy honey, it would be so sugary, like it would be syrup. And honey is one of the most adulterated products globally. And this is an issue. So I vowed to say, I will produce, I will produce pure, unadulterated honey. And so we then started working, setting up the apiary. And this was quite fun. Well, I got stung by bees maybe a couple of times. And it was just an experience. But as I went more into studying about bees and what bees do for us, just imagining that bees are responsible for pollinating about a third of our daily food that we eat. If you take away all the bees, you would just remain with mostly cereals. Bees are responsible for the variety that we have in our tables, the fruits, the vegetables. It's all because of the pollinators, and bees are also the largest pollinators that we have. So besides that, the amazing work that the bees do, the project was less resource intensive. Just you have to set up the hive, and it's just monitoring here and there, and it doesn't take away a lot of time, especially for us youth. You don't want to be on the field all the time, so you have your apiary, you monitor it here and there. So this was actually perfect because we could continue with our main fruit and vegetable processing. And so we then came up with the brand Kenlos. From the first slide, I mentioned how the two organizations came together. So it was Bomba Organic, which was trading as Can Do, and Edlo's Fruits. So you have Ken and Lo coming together. That's how we came up with Kenlos. And from that, we started trading our honey, and we started sharing it with our friends. And from them, we got really good feedback that we started producing more and setting up more beehives and selling it. And through that, oh, yes, so we also have baobab powder, because when you're working, like we're in the forest, you have a variety of products that are available to you. So we then incorporated baobab powder, which we were getting from the farmers who were in the community. So they'll bring baobab and we'll process it into baobab powder. So we then started exploring markets, going for exhibitions, and just telling our story, how we started and where we were going. And from that, really our demand grew. And then we realized that our honey was no longer sufficient, the one that we were producing. So we then started outsourcing our honey from farmers. And the farmers had hives in their homestead farms, and others had hives in the forest. So the most that we traded was in a year was about 2 tons. And this produce, the honey that we produced, we supplied it to the farmers markets, the retailers, and also clients online. So we do not have a physical shop. We operate online. And this was really great for us, just getting feedback. And, you know, working with honey, when you start working with honey, every day you get to learn more about what the product does. So this was really good for the community because of that, because of the beekeeping. You find that the trees and the forest in the communities, they were preserved because the bees need the trees for foraging. And also that's where they put their hives. And because of how well they looked after their projects, we saw a reduced number of wildfires in the area, because they then cleared the land, fire. They made fire guards to ensure that no fire would disturb their beehives or their apiaries. This was also good for the community, because from the honey that they used to then sell to us, they'll get more money that then they use to then do whatever they needed with the supplement their finances, send their kids to school, and buy other things that they needed in the households through the sale of the honey. And what we also enjoyed was seeing the youth participating. You know how we call these areas like, of course it's the rural areas, but then this particular village is like a growth point. In those areas, you find most youth, once they leave school, they don't have anything to do. You find them hanging around the shopping areas just the whole day, or then they just get into using vices, alcohol, drugs, and everything. But then now we saw them saying, being proud of having their own apiary, to say, oh, I sold my honey from my 10 hives that I made, and with this money, I managed to help in the family, and I also managed to buy the things that I needed myself. And this was also good for the girl youths, because they had their own money that they can use to buy for women, feminine products that are an issue, especially in the rural areas. So this was really good, seeing these benefits happening in the community. So yeah, challenges. I mentioned that the land that we got was a gift from my partner's father. Unfortunately, my partner's father, he passed in 2021. And because of that, his land was bundled in his estate, and it was with the lawyers and also the family members. At the end of the day, what I can say is that we lost the land with our apiary. So we lost more than 60 hives that we had set up because the land was then sold by another family member. And where we had sold, where we had set up our factory, right now, my partner is still fighting for that. So because of this whole land situation, I'm sure like we all youth, you are told that don't worry about land ownership, just have land access. But when land access comes with its own challenges. Yes, we had good time setting up these things, but we didn't have security. So now, because of this whole situation, our operations stalled since 2021. So our operations stalled. We couldn't produce more because every day we have to deal with this land situation or this estate situation. So our production and our operation has been severely affected since 2021 until now. Well, I will talk about the solution to that. Anyway, we move on to the challenges. So another challenge that we find in our in beekeeping is quality management. So when we send word to our farmers to say we're going to be buying honey because we have an order, we're buying honey. Because of the economic challenges that are there, the farmers tend to harvest early because, hey, they harvest, they bring honey, they get money. But then the honey that they bring is of low quality because the honey that's harvested early has got higher moisture content. And with higher moisture content in the honey, it causes fermentation. So if the honey has higher moisture content, it does not store well. Its shelf life is short. I know you've heard that honey does not expire. However, it changes its states. So still, fermented honey is still very much edible, and it's actually good because the fermentation adds some prebiotics to it. So it's much more healthy. But to a client, they do not know that. So to them, this product has gone bad. So, and then we have to take it off the shelves because of this situation. And it's been really a challenge, especially now since we've been dealing with problems with our facility. We are working towards that. We've actually secured the device to measure the moisture content in the honey, training them to ensure that we have quality produce. So in the pictures that we have here, you see the crystallized honey. So this is another challenge that we have with honey, but this is natural. Honey crystallizes in when it gets cooler. So now with clients, some of them, they don't know. They want honey to be runny, syrupy. So now you see, like I had the box full of honey. We had to take it down because the clients were not buying it because they're like, why is it solid? Yet it's just a natural process that comes with honey. And the other challenge that we've been facing is actually part of a global problem, reduced bee colonies. And because of the reduced bee colonies, you have reduced honey production. And this is because of desertification, a lot of bees dying from the poison that comes from agrochemicals and diseases. So because of that, we are losing a lot of our bee colonies. And the other issue that's affecting the bee colonies is over-harvesting by our farmers, because they want the money. We buy the honey with the amount of kgs that they bring. And then, so now they will try to have more honey. So in that, they end up over-harvesting. When they over-harvest, this upsets the bees and they will abscond, or some of them would actually die off, unfortunately. And another problem that we have is theft. It's actually sad, but it's a problem that is there for farmers who have their hives in the forest. Here and there, they will just find their hives, they've been harvested. And it's unfortunate, but it's a problem that we are working to solve. So, all of us, yourself there, even if you're not a beekeeper, you can do something to preserve bees, because bees are very important for the biodiversity. And there's this saying that once the last bee drops dead, it is done for the human species, because like I mentioned, our bees, they're responsible for the pollination of our food and also for the balance in the biodiversity. So let us try to protect our colonies in our bees. So by doing this, we can just plant trees and flowers, protect trees and forests. You see like the picture at the background there. I had mentioned that the soil that we had was very sandy soil, so we couldn't grow anything. But because we had a very dry summer, this was a summer in 2019, so we decided to plant sunflowers. So this was not for any to say we expected a lot of money from the sunflower. The sunflower was for the bees to forage. But at the end of the day, everything is connected. Once the sunflowers were matured, we harvested them. And from that, we pressed some oil, and with the remaining cake from the process, we gave it to our stock, the kettle. So nothing went to waste. At the end of the day, everything is connected. So this was good. So plant trees, plant flowers. This is good for bees. Also for the farmers that are here, kindly use less agrochemicals. Let's move to more organic production. This is good for most of the species, the insects, because the agrochemicals that we use, they are destroying and killing the natural the insects, and these are actually beneficial to our farming. So let's try to use less. And I hope we will all become beekeepers. Let's keep some bees. If you have a farm, if you have a good garden, a big garden, just keep a hive. It's good for you. It's good for the environment. From honey, you harvest your own honey, which is good for you. It has medicinal purposes. If you have it in your home for your food, and also you can sell extra, keep some bees. It's good for the environment. And also, it's very important that we all get to learn about the importance of the bees and other pollinators, so that, if you're aware of this, you'll be able to, share with others on how to protect our forests, and protect our trees so that there is no over cutting down of trees for firewood or clearing land for other purposes. But let's just, save our bees. That's what I can say. So what's next for us? So with the issue that we had with the land, we've managed to secure a farm, and we're going to be moving to this new farm in Kwekwe, beginning of the year, next year, 2026. And there we plan on setting up a new apiary, and not just the apiary, but growing a lot of trees, because if you want to have a successful apiary, you must have a lot of trees. So we're going to grow a lot of trees, and that includes the moringas, different types of trees that are beneficial and also have economic value, and also setting up an example of food forests that we can share with the community to say, if you have a small space of land, you can grow most of the trees or most of the plants that can sustain you throughout the year. For example, For example, if you have your mango trees, you have your banana trees, you have some herbs that are all, that you do not need to grow every year, you will be set. So we want to set this up. And also, we want to have a beekeeping and honey quality management trainings with our farmers to ensure that we have quality honey, but as well at the same time they are being good stewards of the bees that they are keeping. Also, product diversification. We plan on having more honey products and more beeswax products. Honey spreads, and different wax products, balms, lotions, and the stuff. Also, moringa and baobab products, and we also plan on getting a getting certified for having a clear and traceable. Want to explore international and regional market. So that's it from me. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Lorraine, for such a detailed presentation. After listening to you, I am so convinced that I am now a beekeeper because that was so detailed and I learned a lot from the presentation. And I also love the fact that you mentioned that all of us have a role to play when it comes to beekeeping or just non-timber forest resources as a whole. So it's not just reserved for beekeepers, for farmers, but for each person, each regular person has a role to play when it comes to these things. Thank you so much once again. So now I'm going to open the floor to questions, to comments, to discussions. Please do feel free to ask any question that you might have for any of our three speakers, or if you just have any comment, any compliment, please, the floor is yours. You may just raise up your hand, or you can just write the question in the chat box. I actually have a question from Victor Kabanda. He texted this a while ago in the chat. I think this is to any of the speakers who are willing to answer. He said that this is overwhelming for newcomers to the sectors. I'm assuming that he's talking about the non-timber forest resources, right? And he says that where do we start to learn about the value chains in the non-timber forest resources? Any of the speakers may answer this question.
I can start, and I guess others can pick up from where I'll leave off. I think just as with all value chains, you start with a product, and then you work yourself backwards to where it comes from. In my presentation, I did mention that the most important thing before you start a business is you find a customer for for that particular business before you invest heavily in the infrastructure and the equipment required. And in this case, we will be talking about in engaging the primary producers or collectors of whatever it is that you want to add value to. Um, that's the starting point, the marketplace. So every value chain is built from the market. And then when you now start going backwards, you start now finding out where do these the raw materials come from, who grows them, and then you start building efficiencies along the value chain and finding out what are the constraints or bottlenecks, and then you try to find ways in which you can actually alleviate those same challenges. And that's how you basically build a value chain. So let's start with, say, mushroom, wild mushrooms. The question would be is there anyone who wants to buy them? Is there anyone who wants them? In what form do they want them? Do they want them fresh? Do they want them dry? Do they want them in brine? What type of packaging would they respond to? Is it plastic, or you want something that is sustainable and is biodegradable? Is the market that concerned? And then when you discover what the market defines and what it wants, that's when now you can go backwards and start asking yourself, where can I source them? Where's the best quality found? How are they supposed to be handled? And then you work yourself back to where the primary producing takes place. So whether it's caterpillars, whether it's edible mushrooms, the bush kind, or specific herbs and spices that are found in the forest, or indeed a wild fruit or a nut that is found in the forest, you'll be able to start with the market and then work your way back. But I must say that it's not all the time that the market knows what it wants. And I think Steve Jobs taught us that very well. Is sometimes the market doesn't know it wants it, but you must be able to be innovative enough to engage them, even on something that they have not told you that they want. I think that's my submission for now.
Thank you so much, Joseph, for that answer. I hope that Victor is answered. You know, it all starts with the market access. That was Victor's, opinion on this. Do any of the speakers want to add on to what Joseph has just said to that answer?
Yes. Okay, so for me, the way we went about it was solving a problem. So, if you look around, there are a lot of problems that are there, especially right now with climate change. So if you look around in your community, try to find a solution to the problems. And with that, after you see like, okay, this is the problem that we have, this is the solution. And then you do what Joseph was saying, go to the market to say, if I start, for example, I'll use how we got into beekeeping. We started off solving a problem of fruit and vegetable wastage. And whilst we were in the community, we saw that we had land, but it was not arable. So what could we then do with the land that is arable? Beekeeping came as a one of the solutions. And then we looked to say, okay, what's there with in the market with honey? So we have adulteration, which is a major problem with honey. So now we then set out to produce pure unadulterated honey that customers can trust, because the people who use honey, they're not just liking it for sweetening. Others actually are diabetic. They cannot take sugar, so they need a substitute. How can I say it? They need a substitute that they can trust. So now we're solving this issue of having an adulterated honey in the market. So yeah, for me is try to solve a problem, and with that, then you go into the market. You see how well you can also benefit economically through that, because at the end of the day, you are a business.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Lorraine, for adding on to that answer. Thank you. I see that we have a hand from JD Mkumbira.
I wanted to add something.
Oh, yes, please, Doctor, go ahead.
Yes, I think Lorraine and Joseph has provided great responses, because they're the ones who are actually doing the businesses. So from my side, I think I still believe in mentorship. I think before you start your business, if you really want to venture into a new business, it's better you talk to people that have walked through the journey that you are planning to embark on. So mentorship is very, very important. And there was a question maybe before this one, and the question came from Clement Mwali, and he asked a question on charcoal and the way it is destroying our natural trees, and different interventions by government are not really yielding results. What other opportunities do you think can work to curb the charcoal impact on our environment? That was another question, I think, that came a little bit earlier. So my response to that, Clement, is that I think Clement is from Malawi. For me, unless we find affordable, sustainable alternatives to charcoal, then we are going to address the issue of charcoal in the country. Otherwise, if you look at the alternatives that we have, whether it's gas, electricity, they are not reliable. They are not cheap. So if we don't find a solution to that, then I think we should forget about addressing the issues of charcoal. I'm not sure how this issue is being handled in other countries, but these alternatives that we have in Malawi, whether it's briquettes, they are not reliable and sustainable. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dr. Muntali, for answering that question. I was actually gonna go to it after this, so you have now answered it. We have a question from Natasha. We have a question from Natasha Chingore. She is asking, how do you determine good quality honey or pure honey? And how do you address the issue of land? She is asking as a youth from Zimbabwe. I think this question is directed to Lorraine. Lorraine, can you hear me? Okay, I think maybe Lorraine is having network issues. In the meantime, Natasha, we are going to answer your question. In the meantime, I'm going to ask JD Mkumbira to now ask his question.
All right. Thank you for. Can you hear me? All right.
Yes.
Thank you for a very brilliant presentation and very captivating and also insightful. I'm really inspired because all these ideas of beekeeping here, the baobab and the all sort of things, they are very good. But I wanted to understand these things. I think the return period where you begin yielding the benefits from it. I think it's a bit long. I don't know. I want to understand how sustainable can someone be? For example, for a baobab tree to grow, it takes a lot of time. And how much have they scaled up so that the production should be much more, regardless of the benefits that they're experiencing now? So to someone who is a youth who want to benefit from maybe to start with baobab or beekeeping, what's the return period? How much time should someone wait? Or she or he should forget about it. Then after maybe 5 to 10 years, and should be expecting the results. How assured would someone be for something that looks like it takes a lot of time to do the benefits?
Okay, thank you so much for your question, Mr. Jedi. Maybe Dr. Meg, you want to take that one, or Mr. Joseph?
I think that question should be taken by Joseph or Lorraine, because
Yes.
they're the ones who have been into this. Thank you.
Yeah, thank
All
you.
right. So I can start. Green Giraffe, like I mentioned, has already generated revenue exceeding $100,000, and this has been within the 2 years we've been operational. right? So that just gives you an idea of how fast our returns have been. Bear in mind that we are we are not planting the baobab trees. So that means we are exploiting a resource that is already there. I agree with you, to expand the baobab tree network will become a very big task, and we might not necessarily enjoy the benefits in our generation. But if you look at it from the business side of things, the opportunities to get a return on investment are quite high. Food is something that will always have a market. Food is something that will always have a market, because whether you like it or not, you have to eat. But the question now comes in is, how are you positioning your brand? For us in Zambia, we have not positioned our brand as a mass market product. So we have basically targeted the middle income going up market, and they have responded quite well with our product. The reason was simple, is because they have the buying power, and our larger aim was to get into the export conversation. So we do appreciate that when it comes to the export conversation, that's where the real money is. And but you need to have developed a successful product locally before you can export it. So for a company like ours that started in 2023 operations, yeah, 2023, we are under 3 years old. We are profitable currently at 25%. So you can tell most businesses take about 3 years to become profitable. As Green Giraffe, we are already a profitable enterprise at around 25% profit. We've also raised investment during that period of time through the Zambia Business Angel Network. So we have attracted financing, as it were, as well as other financing instruments that we've also accessed because of the position that we put ourselves in the market. So I would like to say that if you understand the fundamentals, Dr. Mutali did mention that mentorship is very cool. For us, we went through business incubations and accelerators, business incubation and accelerators. That's a very excellent place to start from, because that's where you have a very rich network of mentors and advisors where you can draw the help to actually build. So you can already see from our example, it took us less than 3 years to get profitable. So the returns do come in if you are well positioned in terms of knowledge, mentorship, and then just how you're navigating your ecosystem.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Joseph. I hope that the person is answered. If you are answered, you can just quickly write in the chat to acknowledge that you have been answered. There are two questions that are directly to Lorraine. The first one is from Tisunge Piri. She is asking, Lorraine, did you set up your beehives yourself or you hired experts? I would like to know if you had enough information before venturing into beekeeping, because what is keeping more ideas is lack of capacity. And we also have a second question, which I did ask earlier. It is from Natasha Chingore. She is asking, how do you determine good quality honey or pure honey? And how did you address the issue of land? I am asking as a youth from Zimbabwe. So Lauren, maybe you want to answer those two questions?
Okay. All right. Tisunge. So, setting up our apiary, I actually set it up myself. I had help from one of the local beekeepers. So they kind of showed me like, okay, fine. So this is what you do. They gave me options to say they can produce beehives for me, and this will be the price. For example, it would be plus or minus 10 to $8 to $10 per hive, or I produce it myself. I buy planks, nails, and then we had to train my own staff how to make the beehives, and that came down to it as little as $4 per hive. So now to talk more on the return on investment, I'll just use just like one hive as an example. But of course, this is all things being constant. Not that you not always have a full hive, or you not always harvest as much honey. So for example, if you then use maybe $4 to $8 to have a hive, to secure a hive, you will get maybe around 32 to 50 kgs per hive. We use the Kenyan top bar hives. And with that 32 kilos of honey from that hive, the lowest that the market is taking honey at the moment per kilo is around $6, $5 to $6. So if I use $6 with that 32 kgs, you would get $192. This is all things being constant. Remember, you will not always get a full hive. Sometimes you lose some bees, they would abscond, but these are challenges that we come with. But then this is what I worked with. I did not have enough information before I delved into beekeeping. I like what Doctor was saying. Have some mentorship, have someone to mentor you. I just went in, I was like, you know what, I have land and I can set up beehives. And we didn't set up all 50 hives at one go. We started off with 10, we extended to 25, we extended to 30, 50, 60. So it was progressive, gradual. But as the more I continued, the more I learned more about beekeeping. I'm still learning until today. There's no, you learn every day. So I just started. I had the courage to start, and here I am today. So the issue of land, the family is still working on the estate issues. Everything is being divided with the family, but we have a secured farm that has our own. We have ownership and we have deeds, so that we won't be disturbed, because the issue of land is a really it's a challenge to most youth. We are encouraged to have access to land. Just don't worry about owning land, just have access. It's good. But then try to have some securities to ensure that you won't be affected in the long run. Have a contract, maybe. We did not have that because it was my business partner's father's land. So we're like, yeah, we set up. But then we did not anticipate this. So to those who are looking for land access, if you find someone who's willing to give you access to their land, have some contract of some sort that protects you, so that your operations are not affected. So we are looking forward to continuing our operations in a new place. But then this whole thing actually set us back a lot. But we're learning as we go. Did I answer all the questions? Oh, how do you tell if this is pure honey or not? It's really hard to tell which one is pure honey, which one is not. That is why a lot of people or a lot of businesses are actually being successful stocking supermarkets with adulterated honey until they're called out by, there's in developed countries, they have what you call this? They have contraptions that test. But for us, we rely on our own rudimentary ways of testing. Okay, so there is the paper test where you put honey on a paper, you rub it. If it gets too wet fast, it has more moisture. And there is a matchstick, there is a water test where you pour honey in a cup and you see how fast it goes to the bottom or how fast it mixes with water. So there are a lot of different ways you can check if honey is pure or not. And also there's taste. You know, the more you work with pure honey, once you taste it, you say, this is not. So for those who want to know how to learn or how to differentiate, you know, these days we have all these resources available to us. Google it. Learn more. We no longer need to go to the library and try to research. Now you can do your own research on how you can do your own taste at home. I hope I answered.
Yes, thank you so much, Lorraine. You answered both questions, and I am sure both of the people who asked are answered. I see that there's still a lot more people with questions, but unfortunately, we are running out of time. There's just 7 minutes left until our webinar finishes. So in the meantime, maybe our speakers, Ms. Lorraine, Mr. Joseph, and Dr. Muntali, you can just leave your emails in the chat so that the people who really want to ask the questions can be able to reach out to you and get more information. Thank you so much once again to Dr. Muntali, Mr. Joseph, and Ms. Lorraine for such a beautiful webinar. This webinar would not have happened without the three of you. And I also want to acknowledge our gratitude as FANAPAN to our partners, AGRA and Generation Africa. This webinar would also not have happened if it was not for you guys. So thank you so much once again to the participants. You made this webinar super interesting. And now in the interest of time, I'm just going to give Mr. Kutakwashe Watetepa just 2 minutes to close off the webinar officially. Thank you so much.
Am I audible?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much for the facilitation. It was quite an insightful and quite an interesting webinar. For me, I've learned a lot, and we encourage technocrats, students, youth who are interested to venture into agri-food systems to continue attending these webinars where we present opportunities in the agri-food systems for different value chains. And as of today, thank you, Joseph. Thank you, Doc, Mutali, and Lorraine. Elila, I think we'll continue engaging because after this most of these youth, they would want to venture either into processing of baobab, processing of honey, fruits, and so forth. So they will get in touch with you. Please don't get tired to assist them and to mentor them. Then from SADC and AGRA, we are so grateful for this year that of all the webinars that we have done, we have found that some people already pick up some business that already they are now pursuing. So for me, I think this might be our last webinar, which is closing the year, and wish you the best and wish you good holidays, and we hope to meet next year as we continue the journey to amplify the voices of the youth and make sure that the youth find some opportunities in the agribusiness youth space. I close this meeting, but we'll continue to interact in our chat box or even in our emails and our WhatsApp contacts. Thank you so much. Have a nice day.
Thank you so much. Bye. Bye, everyone.